We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. Donald Trump names former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe to head the CIA. Fox News host Pete Hegseth to be the Secretary of Defense. Washington says Israel not violating U.S. law on aid to Gaza, signaling it will not limit arms transfers. Germany set date for snap elections on February 23rd following collapse of Chancellor Scholz's three-party alliance last week. Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud arrives in India to meet Indian counterpart S. Jaishankar today. And on to the top story this hour. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump named more of his incoming team on Tuesday, including seasoned figures and hardliners. His administration is taking shape one name at a time. Donald Trump announced his former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, to lead the Central Intelligence Agency. Ratcliffe, a close ally of Trump, served as Director of National Intelligence at the end of his first term. Ratcliffe was confirmed as the nation's top spy in May 2020, 8 months before Trump left office. While Trump has also said he will nominate Fox News Channel host Pete Hegseth to be Secretary of Defense. Hegseth is an Army National Guard veteran and, according to his website, served in Afghanistan, Iraq and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Trump also announced Mike Huckabee as U.S. ambassador to Israel under his incoming administration, putting a stalwart supporter of that country's government in a key role. And in the latest, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has said that he will nominate South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to be the Homeland Security Secretary. And Elon Musk and former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy will lead the Department of Government Efficiency. Well, early on Monday, the U.S. President-elect chose Susie Wiles and Ton Homan as part of his administration, Ellis Stefanik as his envoy to the UN, and Lee Zeldin as the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Reports also suggested that he had zeroed in on Marco Rubio as Secretary of State and Mike Waltz as NSA. This report is a fact box of who's who and who's likely to get what.
US President-elect Donald Trump has begun choosing his cabinet and other high-ranking administration officials. Among the early picks and top contenders for some of the key posts overseeing defense, intelligence, diplomacy, trade, immigration, and economic policymaking. Wiles, one of his two campaign managers, will be his White House chief of staff. Supporters hope she will instill a sense of order and discipline that was apparently lacking during Trump's first term. The former acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Tom Homan, will be in charge of the country's border. Trump said Homan will be in charge of the nation's border, including but not limited to the southern border, the northern border, all maritime and aviation security, including the deportation of immigrants in the U.S. illegally. Trump announced on Monday that Elise Stefanik, a Republican congresswoman and staunch supporter, would be his ambassador to the United Nations. The 40-year-old representative from New York State became a key Republican when she was elected to the White House, replacing Liz Cheney, who was ousted for criticizing Trump's claims of election fraud. Trump also announced on Monday that former Congressman Lee Zeldin would be his administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Zeldin has accepted the role. Zeldin, who is 44, is a staunch Trump ally and hails from New York. He would play a key role in implementing Trump's stated position on overhauling U.S. energy policy to maximize record high oil and gas production by rolling back regulations. Apart from these appointments, there are several names doing the rounds as potential contenders for key posts. Some major news networks have reported so far. Marco Rubio has been tapped for Secretary of State. Rubio is a US Senator from Florida and is also a top Secretary of State contender. His policies closely align with those of Trump. He has long been involved in foreign affairs in the Senate and is an important Latino voice.
Because together with Donald Trump, we are going to make America not just great, but greater than it has ever been before.
It has also been reported that Mike Waltz has been picked as the National Security Advisor. A former Marine, Waltz has established himself as one of the foremost China hawks. Among the various China-related bills he has co-sponsored are measures designed to lessen US reliance on critical minerals mined in China. There are 4 contenders for the post of Treasury Secretary. Scott Bessent is a long-time hedge fund investor who taught at Yale University for several years. John Paulson is a billionaire hedge fund manager and a major Trump donor. He had told associates that he would be interested in the job. He is a long-time proponent of tax cuts and deregulation. Larry Kudlow served as the director of the National Economic Council. Now, he's an outsider shot because publicly he and Trump advocate the same tax policies. Robert Lighthizer had served as U.S. Trade Representative for most of the Trump's first term and is certain to be invited back for either of the top jobs at the Treasury or the Department of Commerce. Linda McMahon, a former Small Business Administration Director, is seen as the front-runner to lead Trump's Department of Commerce. McMahon is the co-founder and former CEO of the professional wrestling franchise WWE. Mark Green is seen as the potential Homeland Security Secretary. The former Army flight surgeon is the current chair of the House Homeland Security Committee. His supporters describe him as a Trump loyalist and an immigration hardliner. Chad Wolf is seen as potential Homeland Security Secretary. Wolf served as Trump's acting Secretary of Homeland Security for roughly 14 months and carried out Trump's hardline immigration policies. However, he did resign after the Capitol riots. Mike Lee, a U.S. Senator from Utah, is widely seen as another top candidate for Attorney General. Like Vance, he was an initial skeptic but later became an unwavering ally, and he's now seen as an intellectual hero among Trump's supporters. Supporters also keenly watching to see what roles Trump would assign to key faces on the campaign: Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert Kennedy Jr., and Elon Musk, called in social media circles as the Avengers. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, the judge overseeing U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's criminal hush money case has put off ruling on whether his conviction should be thrown out on immunity grounds, enabling prosecutors to weigh next steps following his election victory. Justice Juan Merchan was due to rule on Tuesday on Trump's argument that the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in July that presidents are immune from prosecution involving their official acts meant the New York State case should be dismissed. Instead, Merchan granted a request by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office to have until November 19th to consider how to approach the case in light of Trump's looming inauguration in January 2025, email correspondence made public on Tuesday showed. Trump's scheduled November 26th sentencing is now widely expected to be postponed. And amid thunderous cheer and crowd lined on the sides of the road, hundreds of White House staffers greeted Vice President Kamala Harris with chants of MVP Tuesday as she returned to the executive complex for the first time since losing last week's presidential election to Donald Trump. The widely known acronym for Most Valuable Player was apparently repurposed by Democratic loyalists to pay tribute to the 60-year-old's honorary title as Madam Vice President. Harris returned to the White House after running a 107-day campaign that raised and then blew through more than $1 billion after President Biden stepped aside July 21st due to concern about his mental acuity. And the United States has said that Israel was not violating U.S. law on allowing assistance into Gaza, but has called for further progress. The remarks came a month after Washington warned Israel of potential halt to military support. In a letter, the Biden government had voiced concerns over the humanitarian situation in Gaza, setting a deadline of November 13th to comply with U.S. law on permitting humanitarian assistance.
We are constantly assessing and evaluating, and if we do not see consistent progress, if we do not see the results on the ground, then we will, of course, make appropriate assessments about their compliance with international law and compliance with U.S. law, and that'll continue to be the case. The overall humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to remain unsatisfactory, but in the context of the letter, it's not about whether we find something satisfactory or not. It's that what are the actions that we're seeing? These actions that we have seen, we think that these are steps in the right direction. We want to see more steps. We want to see these steps sustained over a significant period of time.
Well, in another development, Israel has claimed to dismantle Hezbollah's weapons and missile facilities, which it said were located under Beirut's southern suburbs of Dahiyeh. Israeli army published a video showing aerial footage of strikes on various buildings. The military said it operates according to precise intelligence. This followed an Israeli military warning to locals to evacuate the area ahead of an airstrike against Hezbollah assets. Recently, Israel has intensified airstrikes on Lebanon south and on Beirut, while Hezbollah has ramped up daily rocket and drone attacks against Israel. And in a video message to Iranians, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's government feared its own citizens more than Israel, urging them to imagine a free future.
The world has seen but a fraction of our power. Yet there is one thing Khamenei's regime fears more than Israel. You know what it is? It's you, the people of Iran. That's why they spend so much time and money trying to crush your hopes and curb your dreams. Well, I say to you this, don't let your dreams die. I hear your whispers. Women, life, freedom, zan, zandagi, azadi. Don't lose hope. And know that Israel and others in the free world stand with you.
And in a major political shake-up, Germany is set to hold snap elections on February 23rd after the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's three-party coalition collapsed last week. The country's two biggest parties agreed on the early timetable, which will see centre-left leader Scholz seek a vote of confidence on December 16th. The election date represents a compromise between the conservative opposition, which pushed for a January vote to avoid leaving Germany without clear leadership. The February 23rd date is predicated on Scholz holding a confidence vote on December 16 that he is expected to lose. After that, President Frank-Walter Steinmeier will have 21 days to dissolve the Bundestag or lower house of parliament. Elections would have to be held within the next 60 days. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier has approved the timeline for early elections agreed by Germany's main parties, saying the plan to hold the vote is realistic. The head of state urged all mainstream parties to cooperate responsibly until then. And British author Samantha Harvey has won the 2024 Booker Prize, one of literature's highest honours, for her novel Orbital. The story follows a tense 24 hours for 6 astronauts from around the world aboard the International Space Station, exploring themes of loss, desire and climate crisis. Harvey's work stood out to judges who unanimously awarded her the prize for its unique perspective and emotional depth. Along with the award, she received a substantial cash prize, which she plans to use for a new bicycle and a trip to Japan, a country close to her heart after having lived there. This win cements Harvey's place among English literature's most acclaimed voices. And still to come on this edition of DD India Live. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to travel to Nigeria, Brazil and Guyana from 16th to 21st November, will attend Rio G20 Summit on 18th and 19th November. First phase of Jharkhand Assembly poll begins today. And the 5th edition of military exercise between the militaries of India and Vietnam, WinPAX 24, is underway at Ambala.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we will talk about Indian Navy's growing power as India's President Draupadi Murmu reviews naval preparedness from INS Vikrant, India's first indigenous aircraft carrier. We will tell you why India's long-range anti-ship ballistic missile will prove to be a game-changer in geopolitics of the Indian Ocean. Lastly in the show, we will bring to you why the Russian Tu-160M bomber could play a pivotal role in strategic dominance during any conflict. Watch Defense Dynamics every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Lipakshi Quran, and moving on, Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud will hold talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Wednesday. During the visit, he will co-chair the second meeting of the Political, Security, Social and Cultural Committee of the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council. This visit will provide further impetus to the multifaceted India-Saudi bilateral ties. The SPC was established in 2019 following Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Saudi Arabia in October of that year. Saudi Foreign Minister arrived on Tuesday in New Delhi for a two-day official visit to India. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Nigeria, Brazil and Guyana from 16th to 21st November 2024. Prime Minister will visit Nigeria from 16th and 17th November 2024. This will be the first visit by a Prime Minister of India to Nigeria in 17 years. During the visit, Prime Minister will hold talks to review the strategic partnership between India and Nigeria and discuss further avenues to enhance the bilateral relationship. He will also address a gathering of the Indian community in Nigeria. Prime Minister will also travel to Rio de Janeiro during 18th and 19th November 2024 to attend the G20 summit. India is part of the G20 Troika along with Brazil and South Africa and has been actively contributing to the ongoing G20 summit discussions. During the summit, Prime Minister will put forward India's positions on various issues of global importance and build on the outcomes from the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration and Voice of the Global South summits, which were hosted by India in the past 2 years. Prime Minister will visit Guyana from 19th to 21st of November 2024. This visit to Guyana will be the first by an Indian Prime Minister since 1968. During the visit, Prime Minister will hold discussions with President Ali, meet other senior leaders of Guyana, address the Parliament of Guyana and address a gathering of the Indian diaspora in Georgetown. Guyana Prime Minister will also participate in the second CARICOM India Summit and hold meetings with leaders of CARICOM member countries to further enhance India's long-standing friendship with the region. An eastern Indian state of Jharkhand votes in the first phase of assembly elections across 43 constituencies on Wednesday. Polling, which began at 7 a.m., will conclude by 5 p.m. local time. 15,344 polling booths have been set up with over 13.7 million voters eligible to exercise their right to vote. While polling will be until 4 p.m. IST at 950 sensitive booths spread over 31 constituencies. More than 200 security companies are on duty to ensure a smooth voting process. The second phase of polling will be held on 20th of November, while votes will be counted on 23rd of November. Prime Minister Narendra Modi urged voters to exercise their franchise and strengthen the festival of democracy. And India's Defence Research and Development Organisation conducted the maiden flight test of long-range land attack cruise missile on Tuesday. Missile with a range of 1,000 km was test-fired from a mobile articulated launcher at the Integrated Test Range in Chandipur, Odisha. According to a statement from the Ministry of Defence, the LRLACM demonstrated precise waypoint navigation, performing complex maneuvers at varied altitudes and speeds. It added that test proved the capability of its advanced avionics and software systems. The missile is designated for versatility, capable of being launched from both land-based platforms and naval vessels. It utilizes a universal vertical launch module, which is also compatible with the BrahMos missile system, thereby enhancing its operational flexibility. Well, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has congratulated DRDO Armed Forces and industry on the successful maiden flight test of LRLACM. He said that the first test paves the way for future indigenous cruise missile development programs. And India is showcasing its finest weaves at the 18th International Apparel and Textile Fair in Dubai, presenting a wide array of high-quality fabrics and unmatched textile expertise. With a strong delegation of manufacturers, designers and artisans, the country highlighted its rich heritage and modern capabilities in textile production. India's textile industry holds immense economic significance, contributing 2% to the country's GDP and making it the third largest textile exporter globally. The sector is a major employer with over 45 million people in the workforce, largely powered by women. The fair serves as a hub for translating and sourcing excellence, shaping the style landscape of the Gulf region. The biannual three-day fair will conclude on the 14th of November.
This is the International Apparels and Textile Fair, Dubai, which is a very good platform for the MSME companies based out of India, because this is giving a platform to get new customers and a base for textile exports. We are seeing a very good opportunity that a lot of buyers are coming from all over the region, from Eastern Europe, Russia and Africa. So there is a boost that we are able to, that our companies like us are able to cater to these new markets which are very nascent, and a huge opportunity is awaiting for the factories like us, which are in MSME, to get new orders, new market, and opportunity, and surely new experience.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. In a significant milestone for India's defence sector, the Indian Army has made substantial progress in the phased induction of Project Akash Tir, an advanced air defence system aimed at modernising India's defence framework. The initiative is designed to create a responsive and resilient air defence network prepared to meet emerging aerial threats with agility and precision. The 10-day festival of Shri Ram Rathotsav began at Jalgaon in Maharashtra on Tuesday. On the main day, the statues worshipped in the temple are taken around the streets of Jalgaon in a lavishly decorated rath or chariot pulled by over 500 devotees. The state of Rajasthan is set to host the much-awaited Rising Rajasthan Global Investment Summit 2024 from December 9 to 11, 2024 in Jaipur. The summit is expected to attract global investors, industry leaders, policymakers and government officials as it aims to position Rajasthan as a leading destination for investment, innovation and sustainable development across a wide range of sectors. And on to some sports news now. Indian women's hockey team edged past South Korea 3-2 in a thriller at the Women's Asian Champions Trophy in Rajgir, Bihar. The home team dominated the proceedings in the first 30 minutes and went up 2-0 thanks to goals from Sangeeta and Deepika. Korea bounced back in the third quarter, making it a 2-2. In the dying moments, with less than 3 minutes to go, India won a stroke after a foul on Navneet, and Deepika scored the winning goal from the spot. Deepika, for her stunning performance, was adjudged player of the match. And star shuttlers PV Sindhu and Lakshya Sen will be eager to regain their respective form as they lead the Indian challenge in the opening matches of Kumamoto Masters Japan Super 500 tournament on Wednesday. Both players have struggled to find their best form following disappointment performances at the Paris Olympics. While Sindhu reached the quarterfinals at the Denmark Open Super 750, Lakshya Sen suffered early exits at both the Arctic Open Super 500 and Denmark Open. Both the players have struggled to close out deciders after staying competitive in their matches. Despite these setbacks, Sindhu has expressed confidence in her preparations, having worked closely with new coaches Anup Sridhar and Korean legend Lee Seon-tu. Meanwhile, Lakshya Sen will open against Malaysia's Leon Jun Hao with a potential shutdown against 8th seed Anthony Glinting of Indonesia in the next round. Well, the 5th edition of military exercise between the militaries of India and Vietnam, Windbags 24, is currently underway at Ambala. The troops of Indian Army and Vietnam People's Army are being trained on employment and deployment of engineer company and a medical team in UN mission. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.